Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Miracle Mindsets. We're so excited for this episode because we have Abby on, who a lot of you probably will recognize once we get into it from the podcast Finding Your Feet. When we last did Miracle Mindsets, like 3 years ago, we were both kind of doing it at the same time, Abby and Grace and me and Sam. And yeah, we covered a lot of similar topics, so I very much wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you guys listen to them as well. But Abby has now come on. She's moved away from everything that she was doing with the podcast and her social media company there, and she started a whole new spiritual journey, which we're going to get into today. So we're so excited. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Honestly, like when you asked me, I was like, that's just so sweet. I feel like coming on podcasts is like so healing, as you guys will know. Like doing them, but also coming on them and doing a little interview is so healing, especially when I've not like recorded a podcast in so long. Like I really miss it.
Oh my God, I agree 100%. It's like you're in a little therapy session and like just to be able to sort things out. And then I think as well afterwards when you've like spoken about something so candidly just on a podcast and then you hear people say that they related to it or like they felt like they were chatting to a friend and they just didn't get a word in edgeways. It's so nice to know that you're all going through it together. But I wonder if you could start us off just by catching us up a little bit on where you're at the moment and everything you've been up to and your place right now.
Yeah. So if anyone does know me from like Finding Your Feet days, because I think we did like a lot of our people overlapped in a way, which is so great. Cause it was like lockdown, wasn't it, that we started? It was like way
It's
back
like
then.
the perfect time to do a podcast, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, it
Oh my
was. It weren't as
gosh.
big as they are now.
No, it was such good times. But I do want to actually say that to you girls. I think it's so good that you've come back to it and you're carrying it on because yeah, as I said, I feel like like in terms of the podcast, it wouldn't make so much sense to do it right now. Or me and Grace have kind of gone separate ways in terms of our lives, like what we do. But I miss it so much. Like as I just said, like honestly, there's nothing quite like sitting with your friend and recording a podcast. So really miss the Finding Your Feet days. But yeah, so we decided to leave the podcast because we started the marketing agency, which was kind of social media stuff. And that was about like 3 years ago now. So yeah, we decided to leave the podcast just purposely because we didn't have enough time and also a few other things we'll get into, but like grieving and stuff is quite hard to like show up on a podcast every week when you're grieving. So we left that and then I had the marketing agency for 3 years and then last year I just really deeply had this calling that I needed to leave and do my own thing. That was really hard as well to actually leave that because I think when you put so much into something you've built and a part of you is saying that it's not in alignment, you need to step away, but like everything physically is showing that you just need to carry on. It is so hard to break away. And it was very, very emotional actually to decide to leave that business with Grace. Because obviously as well, I've worked with Grace for like 4 years and we had the most beautiful relationship and also working relationship. But I decided to leave and that would have been last July, August. And I was literally like, I don't have a clue what I'm going to do. I was like, I want to do more creative. I want to do like expression. I want to like work on my art, but I was like, I don't know how I'm going to actually make money from this. And it's crazy because now when I look back, like the transformation that's actually taken place in that like quite short amount of time is like incredible. And I feel so much better from actually like sticking to my truth and like thinking, no, like this isn't quite in alignment. I need to leave. And so grateful as well for like the time that I worked with Grace and all the amazing memories and everything that I learned in there. But truly like knowing when it's time to leave, I feel like really benefited me because you can really like drag things out in life. But then like the crack stocks show as well. So yeah, so now I have a branding and design agency and I also do abstract art, which I've just said to you girls is launching next week. So it's going to make more sense when everyone can see the website and stuff. But it's a place of expression. So there's kind of like abstract prints, but then I also work on a lot of like branding projects with new startups, personal brands, or if someone's like having a kind of like a rebrand for their business as well. So it's really like just more on the creative side, as I said, like more about expression. And then the other thing that I do obviously is my practitioner training with a woman called Estelle Bingham who does a practitioner training called the True Essence Process. And I've just finished my second year, even though we started about 3 years ago, but we had a break. And that has like truly transformed my life in so many ways. Like I met Estelle about 4 years ago for like therapy to begin with. And like the person that I was when I met her compared to the person now is just like miles and miles apart. She is like truly like shone such a light on so many things, just helped me alchemize so much pain, so many stories. truly just step into like a deeper connection with God, with spirit, and to be a practitioner and to be a healer has been like truly profound. So that's a huge part of my journey. So it's kind of like the two things, like the branding design, abstract art, and then the whole umbrella of it is really like healing work and helping people step into a more authentic place, and just like truly believe that they can live a really happy, authentic life.
There's so much that like I would want to unpack, and I think that what you said initially about like when something in your life is going well and you're seeing success, but you know somewhere within that there's another path that's calling you. I think that's so difficult. What do you think was the catalyst for you to really listen to the other road that's less taken and kind of go with the unknown rather than going with what was safe and what you knew could be successful?
I think having actually, like, obviously it comes from an intuitive place, but I think also like having incredible people around you that can also spot that. Because in terms of like Grace and I, we were so close and we worked together really well, but she could see as well like how I really needed to like move apart in a way. So like the catalyst really that actually we're going it all was like a massive like conversation between me and Grace, which lasted hours and was so emotional, like literally so emotional. Because I suppose like in life, I think we can have these intuitive nudges, and I have always kind of like followed them, like say with breakups and stuff, like even when it's been really, really tough, I'm like, no, this kind of needs to end. Like I need to break up. But I think having actually people around you that can also like give you that nudge and like see like parts that are kind of in your blind spot really helps as well, because she obviously was super supportive and was like, look, I think something needs to change. But as well, in terms of like just personally myself, I just always think that like when I'm gonna like be older, when I'm gonna be 80, when I'm gonna be dying, like, am I gonna regret saying things that like don't feel right and don't feel in alignment? Like, I'm gonna want to think like, I'm so glad I went for it. I'm so glad I've tried something else, rather than I'm so glad I stuck in something that just felt a bit safe. So I think I always go back to that, even when it's like scary as fucking, like, oh no, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, it's for a reason. And also I just feel like everyone is guided like by the universe. So I'm like, if I'm being drawn to something, my heart is telling me to go somewhere, then it'll be fine. Like, they've got me, it's fine.
Yeah.
How do you think your like spiritual journey has affected that? And like, can we touch a little bit more on like what that actually means and what that looks like? Because like, I know like Sam's a lot more spiritual than me. Like, obviously you are, but like, I understand it. I have my own relationship with like the universe and like how I think that guides us and stuff. But like, for somebody who maybe is like a little bit deeper into it, what does that actually look like, and how did it come about? How does it affect your day to day? Like, what does your spirituality actually mean in your life at the moment?
That's such a good question, because I feel like people always say they're like, are you spiritual? And then they're like, what does it mean? And then I feel like everyone is always like, what does it mean? Like, what does spirituality actually mean? And I suppose it is just like personal for each person. Like, I would say I got more like spiritual, I think about like 10 years ago, like I started to develop that journey. But like growing up, I didn't have any spiritual beliefs. I wasn't religious or anything like that. And to me, it is just like this deep faith that you are being guided, but also that like your purpose and your path is about so much more than yourself, if that makes sense. Like, so with my practitioner training or like alchemizing stuff and doing healing work, like it's not always easy. Like sometimes it's fucking really, really hard and I don't want to do it. I'm like, actually, I'd rather just like go for a drink and sit in the sun, but actually I need to like alchemize some of this pain. But then I always come back to this thing of like, it's not even about me. Like, I truly believe everyone has a purpose in their own way. And whether like you connect to God or spirit or not, but like you're being guided and you're going to help people in a way that like you can't even fathom. So like when I'm like, oh, do I even want to do that? But my heart is being guided, or like I feel spiritually guided, and I'm like, well, it's not even really about me. Like, what did I come here to do on this planet? Like, I truly feel I came here to help people heal and to help people like feel happier. So yeah, I suppose it's like kind of removing like the personality and the ego a bit and thinking like, it's not even so much about me. It's like a true like devotion to spirit. And as well, spirituality for me just makes me so much more of a happier person. Like, people say that to me, they're like, well, why are you spiritual? Like, what do you even get from it? And I'm like, well, actually, I feel so much calmer. I feel so much happier. Like, I wake up every day and I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like I'm being guided. I feel like if I'm like crying on the bedroom floor and I'm like, this is fucking horrible, I still feel supported. I can like drop into a meditation. I can feel angels around me, guides around me. Like, it's a very beautiful way to live for me, and it works for me. So whether we get to this end of the lifetime and it's not real or it is, I don't know, but I know what is true in my heart and like what like I resonate with and what I've seen in like meditations and, you know, all that stuff and healing work. So yeah, to sum it up, spirituality just like makes my life so beautiful. So that's why I resonate with it.
It's so funny. I was actually walking home today and I was thinking, like, I don't know the last time I had a bad day. Do you know, like, where like you're like, oh, like you're angry, or like I don't feel like I ever have like a day where I'm just really pissed off. And like I think that is a big part of spirituality. And I think what you were saying then about, obviously, your identity over the years has shifted, and like in the 3D where like we're chasing success, like at one point it looked like you were going in the right direction, but in your soul it was calling you to shed that version and see how good it gets. And I think that sometimes we can be so scared, even with us, and we spoke about it when we first started back on this, like we clung on to the podcast so much because it became our identity and our purpose. And even though it was our purpose, it was our purpose at that point, and then we needed to go and learn and to like delve into new things and follow what our soul wanted or what our journey was meant to be. And like, it is, when you look back in hindsight, you're like, okay, like it all happened in divine timing. And I think that's so nice, and you can actually look back on it and there is no mistakes, really.
Do you think that what's not meant to be will stay in your life? So, like, do you think if you clung on to that business, it would have carried on, or would it have just been too hard to hold on to? Or like, if people stay in a relationship that they know deep down isn't right, or they have these niggles, it might not be. Do you think it will stay? Or now that like you've done this work and you know about like this bigger power guiding us, or like a bigger force, or however you see it, do you think that it will actually leave and go? Or do you think like you might be in it, but like you might be in it physically, but spiritually you're not?
Yeah, no, I see that. I feel like as humans, and obviously we have free will, I feel we can obviously like our beliefs and all that is what like plays into these things. To say you stay in a relationship because you don't want to be lonely, or you don't want to, like, you don't feel worthy of some kind of love, so you stick with the person even though spiritually it's probably not right. So I feel like obviously as a human, as a human on earth, you can stay in things that are out of alignment, but I feel the cracks will always start to show. Like, I truly believe if you're in like the wrong relationship for you and not being like treated right, then it'll make you ill to begin with. Like, your whole life becomes like a suppression of your energy. Like, even when I reflect on relationships where they've not been quite in alignment and they've not felt right, I can just like even see in my energy, even from pictures, like I wasn't like the true version of me, like I was suppressed. And some people, I suppose, in this lifetime where they are, maybe aren't meant to express themselves. Like maybe that's just not in their path. Obviously, we're all different, and maybe in another lifetime they'll break free from that relationship. They might spend their whole life in that relationship, which can be sad. But I suppose, yeah, it's everyone's like path is different, and everyone's karma in this lifetime is different. But I do believe as well, though, and I bet you girls have experienced this though. Like I do believe like when you're saying things that aren't necessarily right, and you know, then just things start to show up. Like things just won't work. Like even in a past relationship I've been in, and then it kind of like it wasn't like quite right, and I was like I wasn't feeling valued, and then he ended up cheating on me, and I was like, well, obviously that was going to happen. Like not blaming myself, but I was like, well, obviously like the universe does really move things for you. So yeah, I do think you will, like the signs get louder and louder, I think, until you listen, but people can be very good at ignoring the signs as well. So kind of a bit both.
Do you look back on things like that now, that like the further you are into your like journey and like perspective on things, and like are almost thankful that it did because it like guided part of your journey?
Yeah, 100%. Like so many of my breakups, I'm like, thank God that happened. You know, it just saves you a bit of time. Like sometimes things just have to really painfully fall apart, and I know it's really not nice to be cheated on, but sometimes like just many things will like fall and crumble, and it's actually in your favor, even though at the time you're like, this is really hard and really sucks and it's really painful. I feel like a lot of the time it is in your favor, and you know, like you can sit there and pray for peace or courage or strength, but like you have to kind of like go through these horrible things to actually get that. So yeah, I always come back to that.
Yeah, I literally seen a quote saying it's like, I asked for flowers, so God gave me rain, and it is exactly that. And I was saying to you, wasn't I? There's a girl that I work with, and her boyfriend is here in Sydney, and nothing is working for him. Like, he can't find a job, or the job like cancels, and then he's thinking about going home now. And I think that it is true, isn't it? Like, if you're not in the right place, like you can stay in it because you do have free will, but like intuitively you just kind of know. And then I'm the same, that when I reflect back on like my past relationships and things like that now, and the way I feel, and I feel so free. And I think like breakups can really transform you and can give you like the biggest lessons. And I'm like, wow, like I would never have learnt that if I would have stayed, and if I would have continued to stay in it.
Yeah, it's so true. I think of it like the time just before I moved away, when we were at home, and then just before I moved to London. Like, I was so just like clinging on to like like out of fear, just clinging on to where I was. Whereas deep down, I knew that I had to leave. Like, I knew I had to go. I knew that like I wasn't where I was meant to be. And it is scary. Like, maybe people listening are thinking of something that like they're resonating with, something deep down that they know they need to do, but the thought of doing it on your own when you've built everything around you so comfortably is like, yeah, it's lonely, and like it is scary. When you talk about like alchemizing pain, what do you mean by that, and like how does that look?
So yeah, I'll say this is like more in my healing work, is kind of going back, and I know you guys want to work with like your inner child a lot. It's kind of like going back to painful parts maybe in your past, especially like for me, I've worked quite a lot actually with my teenager rather than my inner child, but obviously inner child work is really important as well. But going back to these parts of our lives where we experienced a lot of pain, but maybe we didn't actually process it, and we maybe like didn't know how to process it, didn't have the support, didn't have the tools, and we kind of internalize that shame, the shame, the pain, and then create stories about ourselves. So like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love, I'm ugly, I'm fat, because of these pain points that haven't been alchemized. And I think just as a soul on this planet, like we're all going to have those times and those pain points, and a lot of the time we don't realize how much they're actually running our lives and running the show. And recently in my practitioner training, we've been doing a lot on shame, like a whole kind of 2 modules on shame. And it's so interesting, like what comes up, like when you actually allow your shame to speak and you allow the stories to speak, and you think, oh God, I didn't even know like I thought that about myself. And like even like modalities like EFT tapping and stuff like that can really bring out these subconscious beliefs where you think, I didn't realize I think that. And I truly believe that the only way to really let go of those stories and the shame, the spirals, is to work and release the pain and to meet yourself in that moment. So say like recently I've been like working with like my 14-year-old self, and when she literally had no tools whatsoever, she didn't have a clue how to like meet herself, she didn't know how to ask for help. I just like internalized everything and had really unhealthy coping mechanisms. So I've gone back to that girl, and I like sit in meditations, I just sit in memories, and I comfort her. And it's weird actually, because I feel like a part of myself, like recently I did it, and I feel, I don't know if you like have heard much on this, but you know, like there's like no time and space really. Like I feel like when I go back and meet my 14-year-old self and comfort her, I actually feel like at the time I could feel that, if that makes sense, because it's all at the same time. So there's like a part of my soul that goes back and meets that part of myself to like call her in, so she's not like left out in the dark, like lost and cold and afraid. So I like bring that in to like really alchemize the pain that I experienced then. And I think by doing that, you just live a much more authentic life, because you're not holding so much like pain in your heart. Like you feel more free, because you're like, actually, I allow myself to feel that. And then when other things come up further down the line, now in life, you have better mechanisms to sit there and feel the pain and like let it move through you, rather than holding it within you and then creating these stories.
And also like repressing it. I feel like lately, even with men, like especially since I've been doing like yoga classes and things, one of the guys that came was like, oh my God, I was so nervous, like I feel like everyone would have been looking at me. And I was so surprised to hear him say that, because like I just didn't, and maybe I didn't look at him with vulnerability or think, you know, people turning up to the class, sometimes you can be so in your own mind about, oh my God, I need to teach this class. Say I mess up, that you forget that everybody around you is human. But I was going to say that, like, I am noticing recently so much, like, the way everybody behaves, the way I behave, some mechanisms where, like, I just fancy a drink in the evening, or like I'll always say yes to plans, is a coping mechanism for a feeling where maybe I'm scared of being on my own, or I'm scared of being rejected, and these are all things that, if you sit and work on healing the wound, you won't feel the impulse to do something as much, or maybe to go with that thing that maybe isn't helpful long term to you.
Yeah.
I noticed as well when you were talking about, like, it really is our own therapy session.
All the table.
Like, when you were saying about, like, your teenage self, like, for me that resonates so much, and talking about shame, like, I feel like I've been so good for so many years as showing up as, like, the version that I wanted to be in that moment, and it's when anything, like, goes beyond that, or, like, I have to go a bit deeper or show, like, parts of myself that maybe for whatever reason I feel shame around, or, like, vulnerability, and it's where it taps into that I really, like, get on the defensive, or, like, I have so many, like, defense mechanisms shoot up the minute that I think that this shame is going to be brought to light, because I've been so used to operating at a surface level of the way that I want people to see me at, and, like, I've become very, very good at that. And I think, like, maybe we talk so much about childhood work, but, like, maybe teenage work would be so useful for that. I think, like, especially, like, your teenage years is such a confusing time. Like, you operate off of only what, like, your parents show you, or, like, you feel in a friendship group, or, like, you feel in a classroom or something, but you don't know that there's a world beyond that, and you build so many beliefs at that time that make up who you think that you are, when you don't even know what else is out there.
And like you were saying, you actually don't have the tools to heal that version. Like, I honestly remember, like, from 11, I remember going into one of my friend's houses and his mum giving me a packet of crisps, and I was like, no, I'm on a diet. And, like, I'd cry when I'd be wearing shorts, and I'd be like 12 or 13. And it's like, over the years, we forget sometimes that version of you, like you said, past, present, and future, are actually all operating in this moment. And so that little version of you lives on in you. And that's why when something does come up, where maybe someone comments on your body, or on, like, how competent you are, or whatever it may be, it just, something switches in you, and you feel this mad emotion or trigger. And it's because, like, that little version of you is still present and still listening, and still gets hurt when they hear that.
Yeah, 100%. They're, like, still waiting to be heard. So that's why it's painful in that moment, because you hear something and then you're like, why am I feeling so triggered? Why am I feeling so hurt by this? And it's actually because we've, like, tapped into a part of ourselves that's still out in the dark, as I said, and, like, still in pain. And when you're speaking then, I was just thinking about, like, how exactly what you're saying, Jen, like, how we can, like, everything at the surface level, like, we can keep going, we can have so much success. Like, even, like, there's so many successful people that never even tap into the kind of, like, pain points. Like, you can still have success and live certain lives, but I suppose it comes down to how free you feel. And one thing that Estelle taught me as well, and I really do just want to honor her in this moment, because honestly, like, she's been so incredible. And as well, like, I'm not, like, plugging here, but she's just wrote a book that is so good. Like, I've obviously done, like, 3 years with her now, but even when I read the book, so many things came up for me, so many things came out. So maybe I'll give you the link, because it's honestly really, really good, and your audience will absolutely love it. But there's a part in it.
Yeah, what's it called?
It's called Manifest Your True Essence.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll get that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. So it's on pre-order now, but it's out on the 8th of April, so pretty soon. But honestly, no, you'll absolutely love it. And yeah, there's a part in it where she's just talking about going into all the rooms in the house. Like, so often we can have maybe just the front porch, the living room open, and everything looks fine and everything's in place and everything's all good on the surface. But, like, what happens when we actually go into all the rooms in the house, and we go into the basement where we open the windows, and, like, we actually allow love into those places where we don't feel loved, or those places where all those horrible stories live. Like, it's painful and it's hard work, but it's so worth it, because who wouldn't want like a big, light, airy house with like all the windows open and all the light coming in, like rather than just like living this lifetime, just occupying that little room of the house and just keeping it going, but actually like behind closed doors. And like when we drop to something deeper, we're actually in so much fear. So even though it's tough, it's so worth it. And then as well, I think doing that kind of work helps you have so much compassion and grace for other people as well, because you're like, I get it, like I act in this way because of this. And then you can see it very clearly in other people, and it's like, oh, they're not actually that much of a shit person. They're actually just really massively operating from their inner child right now. And yeah, you can just have more compassion, I suppose, in that moment.
That's so true. And I think like, oh sorry.
No, go on.
I was gonna say, like, I think like it offers you so much freedom. Like, so, and like an example for me, because we're all in the space of being vulnerable, but like, so like when I got into the relationship that I'm in now, like for so long I held up that facade, and like it almost made me come across with a different person to who I was, to the point that it was like almost causing problems in our relationship, because like I was creating this persona that wasn't true, but like I felt so much that I hadn't had like much of a past, or like I didn't feel love in the past, but I didn't want to be that person that didn't feel loved. So I just like played up any time that I had, basically, and it like then created this persona that like caused problems. And in the end, like we ended up having like a really open and honest conversation, like pretty recently, considering like we've been together quite a while and now we've known each other for a while. We lived and traveled together, and like it unlocked so much like freedom. Like I felt so free to like really own up to that person and like be so honest about who I was and like this truth and everything. And it was so hard, and I remember having the conversation being like, wow, like, do you know what, like we're just going to talk about this, because like I want us to be so open and free together, and like I want us to like live out our full relationship's potential. But like I'd gotten so used to operating at this at this like surface level, and it wasn't like anything deep or anything. It was something I could like kind of just play along with, but like it actually for me was so deep, because it meant that I wasn't really like loving and like being so accepting of me and like everything that I'd felt and been and like lived with in the past. And like I think doing that in a work and like like opening up the light and stuff was so freeing. And now even I'll notice like little triggers in the day to day, like somebody will say something, I'm like, oh, like I didn't feel like I had that, or like, oh, I always felt like different, or like didn't feel loved myself, whatever. And like it just is another thing that like you operate at and might come so easily to, and like is a trigger or whatever you want to call it, and a way to look into your past to heal yourself and like move on from it. And like for another person that might be so a non-issue, but they then deal with like like with their career or like with their family life or something. And it's that empathy, knowing that like what you have is just like personal to you, but everybody has their own version of it, and having that like understanding for others as well can be so freeing. And definitely, like I think it helps in every situation. Like you might go into work and get told off and be like, oh, do you know what, like they might be going through something, and it can be your spirituality or your inner child work or healing or whatever can be so practical as well. It doesn't have to feel so far off. It can help you so much in like your still day-to-day life that you've built up.
Yeah, 100%. And as you just said then, like honestly, like now I never underestimate the power of just actually speaking something and just actually like having a voice and just actually being like, I don't know really what I'm saying, I don't really get it, but like, can you just listen to me in this moment and can we just speak about it? Like that is so powerful. And like you can release so much pain by literally like speaking the words. Like I've had that many times where I've like, a part of me has just felt terrified to speak. I'm like, oh my God, no, my inner child is like really activated. I don't really understand what's going on, but like, I'm just going to speak anyway, even though my voice is literally trembling and I don't really get what I'm saying. I'm going to speak it for that older part of me. And then even just like literally after, you're like, oh, I feel miles better now. like sometimes it's hard. Yeah. Or sometimes it's just speaking it out and getting it out of your mind and your body.
I remember like thinking back to who I was when I first got into a relationship in like 2019, I remember accidentally blurting out like, I love you. And then like, honestly, I drove off like gear 5, voice noted the girls like, I've got to end it, like I've got to end it. I ignored him the whole day. And like, I was so scared to get into a relationship. Like I was so scared to be vulnerable because I had this belief that like, if someone knew the real me, they just wouldn't love me. And so it's like that, like you can put on such a front of like this perfect version of you, but that isn't the real you. And like you were saying then about the house analogy and airing out the windows, I think that sometimes spirituality, I've asked myself the question like, fucking hell, like, is it not just easier to not do all this stuff and not know all this and not be aware? But then I think actually, yeah, like you can protect your living room so much and make it look to everybody else that everything is going on because you're so scared to be open or be vulnerable. And regardless of whether you tap into these different rooms or not, if you don't, then you're always protecting something without loving and honoring yourself. And so I think that like, if anyone's listening and they have it, like they are scared to get deeper, like it's so freeing as well. And I think back to that time where I was so avoidant, or like we had an argument and we booked a flight to Dubai. Like I was crazy in the beginning, like crazy avoidant. But it came from such a little fear within me that, yeah, like I'm not going to be loved. And so like I can acknowledge so much where like I was probably like from the outside not a good girlfriend in the beginning. And can think now I'm like, but that version of me was just wanted love so much. And so it is, I think it is when you start doing this work, it's like, fuck, everyone has the demons. Like every single person is operating from a place within them where all they want is to feel loved or feel seen or feel enough or feel successful. And I think knowing that, you can start to operate with just so much more love and authenticity and vulnerability as well.
Yeah, totally. I think that like sitting there and thinking, oh my God, like it looks so much easier to not do this and like just leave it all is such a real part of the healing journey. I honestly think like so many people go through this, and I've been through it so many times where I'm like, well, Sally from down the street, she's not doing anything. She looks like she's having a great time. But as you just said, that when you actually do let go of things and heal things, you will live a happy, authentic life. And I think it's just always worth it in those moments where, say, like you both had those really hard conversations, or you like worked on your attachment style, stuff like that, and then there'll be moments of bliss where you think, I wouldn't have experienced this if I hadn't alchemized it. Like I would still be stuck, and that's when you know it's worth it. But sometimes it is really hard in those moments. So I hear anyone that's listening that's like, oh my God, this is just hard work. Like when does it get better? Like it always will get better, but I think that is just part of the healing journey, is experiencing that.
Yeah, definitely. For you, with like, obviously you did a podcast for years, and obviously even stepping away from that, do you feel like since then, and like with podcasts, obviously it's a lot of, we talk and we give advice, like we both have done so many episodes as in Finding Your Feet and us. Do you think that like there's been more spiritual awakenings and more lessons and more embodying since you actually stopped the podcast and stopped maybe giving the advice, like what, like post podcast, how do you feel like do you feel like you've gone through spiritual awakenings? Like, do you feel like you've gone deeper?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think through the podcast, I would say it's probably similar, but maybe it might seem like more on the podcast because we're always speaking about it. I think it might have felt like more was going on in our lives, more on the podcast because we were always reflecting on it, which again, I think is so healing. It's so great that you can sit down each week and do that. But probably at the same rate. And I think I feel like doing the podcast, I was in the midst of like a spiritual awakening. Like there's one episode that you can watch and I literally look high on life because I did all this crazy breathwork meditation before me and Grace recorded. Oh my God, like I would genuinely feel like I was on drugs. Like I was in the midst of a spiritual awakening, and the episode is about spiritual awakenings, which is just so fitting. So I think like we were really doing like some alchemizing on that podcast. But I think maybe bigger parts of my story have come in afterwards, like obviously the grief and stuff like that. Like you just learn, and obviously it brings you to the ground, but I suppose it's not something you can really implement into like a podcast in a way. I mean, you can, but like it's very like personal and just really brings out a deeper part of you that I feel like wasn't quite there before. So I think maybe bigger parts of my spiritual awakening have come in after the podcast. And obviously through my practitioner training, each module we learn and alchemize so many parts. But yeah, I'm very fond of all the times I'm finding your feet, because there are so many episodes, where like we're just really working through something that week, and then we bring it to the podcast and we talk about it, and then people resonate, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe people even resonate with this. And then you look back and you're like, oh, I actually was really working through something then, and then it like helps other people as well. So yeah, I suppose both, but like slightly in different ways.
I wish we'd carried on Miracle Mindsets during the past years for that reason. Like, I think, and this is what I was thinking of before, like doing the work or like going deeper into things can look like so many different things. Like, it might look like journaling, it might look like going to a women's circle, it might look like doing a podcast, it might look like whatever it is for you, it can look so many different ways. And I think like having that chance to speak so openly about things that maybe you wouldn't each week and hold yourself accountable is like so helpful. It's so powerful. I wanted to talk about it then. I know you touched on it a couple of times, but I wanted to talk about your experience of grief and like how that has shaped your perspective, how it's changed like your path. And I know like it's such a sensitive subject, and maybe like has your perspective changed on it to see like the light in its guidance and everything as well? I know some people like can shift from being something that's so like devastating to afterwards seeing how like it can shape you going forward as well, and finding purpose in it as well. But yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of your story on that.
Yeah, no, exactly what you just said. I feel, grief. And so I lost my dad in last year in January, on the 19th of January. And yeah, I feel grief is so painful, but also so beautiful in ways. And it's kind of like two sides. Like I think as well, like as a spiritual person, like I wanted to be careful with like losing my dad, that I didn't kind of like spiritual bypass it away and think, oh, well, it's fine. His soul was meant to go and it's just his time. Because that is a huge part of it. And that's the part where spirituality really helps and makes it a lot more beautiful. But then also there's obviously like the human part of us that is like devastated and so upset that someone's left before what feels like the right time. So yeah, through it all, I wanted to like remain mindful of like tending to the two parts, but I definitely think my spirituality helped me get to a place of acceptance in a way, because my dad was sick for like a year, and I mean, I've spoken about this quite a lot on like finding your feet, but like my dad really struggled his whole life with his mental health, and by the time he got sick, I think he was just so like he didn't have any fight in him, like he was kind of just like he didn't have anything left. And then obviously to get cancer and the treatments and everything, like so much on your body, so much on everything, as we all know. So he kind of didn't have any fight left. So like the spiritual side of me was like, oh, well, maybe it's just his time to go. Like, that's fine. But then the human part of me is like, what the fuck? Like, oh, are you giving up? I mean, like, you know, like the inner child as well, like that's still like, you know, you just want your dad. You just want to be loved. Like, come, let's have more times. Let's go on more walks. Let's just enjoy this lifetime. Like, why the fuck are you leaving? Like, that's like a really human part of grief, is like, what the fuck? Like, you're going. So it's like tending to that part, the really painful part that like feels abandoned. Like when someone leaves, you can feel abandoned, while also knowing that like it was his time to go, and it was best for him because he didn't have any fight left in him. So to sum that up, I feel grief is like really like tap me into like a deeper love within myself, to like really accept people where they are, like even when it doesn't fit your timeline, to let people go. Like I feel in my lifetime I've always had to let people go, and even though it's really painful, it's just sometimes that's just part of your path. And I think obviously we take so many things from people, and now I like almost feel like even closer to my dad now he's gone. Like obviously he's not physically here, but I feel really close to his spirit. I feel him around me. I feel his guidance. Like he'll come through on readings and stuff like that. So I feel him really close, and I just know that he is actually in a much happier place and he needed to leave at that time. So yeah, just dropping into something little bit deeper, I feel, is what grief has done for me. Allow me to drop into like a deeper love and a deeper acceptance, even though it is super, super painful. And like anyone that's going through grief, it's like, you just have to give yourself time, because I literally that's one of the reasons as well, actually, that I left the business, kind of missed that out. But I was like massively grieving. So I was like burnt out. Like, I don't know if grief burnout is a thing, but oh my God. I was just, I couldn't, like, my brain just wouldn't function in the way it used to. So like when I used to get like, what I used to get done in like 5 hours would take me like a full week or something. So that puts strain as well on like working with other people. So yeah, so like time, grace, and like just dropping into something a bit deeper, I think is what really helps you get past grief. But like it's like, it's not fun.
No. And that's the thing as well, like spiritually, you can read stuff. Like, I've read so many books where, like, if there's a book called like Signs, and it talks about where they'll communicate with you in like spirit world and things, but then it doesn't take away from the fact that you just want a physical hug from like your parents or whatever. And I think that it's so difficult. And I wanted to ask as well, like, for anybody that is watching somebody go through grief, so like as a friend or as somebody that is trying to be there for somebody with grief, like, what would you say is the best way to navigate it? Because I know sometimes, like, one of my friends out here, like, just lost a mum in December, and it's so, like, you want to be able to say the right things, but like, what can you physically say? Because you can't take the pain away. Do you know what I mean? So what would you say as a friend you can do to help somebody going through grief?
Yeah, I would say literally, even though it's quite simple, it's like, I don't think it's so much like the words you say. I think it's just like being there and showing up in that moment, like, it's so profound. Because I truly, like, after I lost my dad, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like maybe I've had friends grieving in the past, and like I didn't quite know how to show up for them, because I don't think we do. Like, we don't really speak about death. We don't really speak about grieving. It's something we kind of like just brush aside. So then when you go through it, or when someone close to you loses someone, you kind of like, I don't really know how to navigate this. So when I lost my dad, I was like, oh, okay, like, you basically just need people to check in. Like, that's all it really is like people checking in, being like, how are you? How are you feeling? How's your grief? And I heard something the other day, someone was saying like the best question to ask someone that's grieving, like when they're really in it, is just to say, well, like, what was your dad like? Like, what was your favorite thing about your dad? And that's a really beautiful way to like meet someone in that moment and be like, I'm here with you in the grief. Like, let's talk about some nice things about them. Yeah, because I think with grief, I think people get scared that they're going to like maybe like upset people or bring it up and things like that. But I think what is like sad is when people can't speak about it, or when they feel like, oh, I don't really want to bring up my dad or something like that, because I'm like, is it too much? Or like, is it like bringing up this topic of grief, they don't want to speak about it? But I think carrying on their legacy by like bringing them in small moments. Like, I literally bring in my dad all the time. Like, we'll just chat to people and I'd be like, oh yeah, well, my dad used to do that. Like, I just think keeping his spirit alive in that way is really nice. So I would say asking for, yeah, like just talking about the person, just literally showing up no matter what you're kind of saying, just being like, how are you feeling? I'm here. And yeah, just mainly that. I think like the thing with when we're struggling with something so vast and so big in front of us, and it just feels overwhelming and so painful, for someone to come and meet you in that moment and be like, this is horrible, but I'm here and I'm right next to you, and like, it's going to change, it's going to get better. Like, that shifts so much. Like, it's not that they need to say anything or fix anything. It's just that they're actually like, I see this big well of pain and like, it's okay because I'm here with you. I think that is what is like really helpful.
Do you think, like, your dad passing, do you think it's changed your outlook on like the time that we have here, and like your perspective on your own life and your own path and what life actually means?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I would already say I lived like quite in the moment anyway. Like, as in, I'm always like, we're just going to do it. Like, life's short, but definitely more for sure, because like he was like 62, and I'm like, it's not really that old, you know. Like, I see so many people that live the most vibrant, amazing lives after 62. So it's like, you never really know where your life's going to go, but you also have like everyone's life is their own responsibility and you have so much choice. So I think like, say this morning I woke up, I went to the gym, but I got hip rotated. Like I don't know how much, like sometimes I really struggle to get out of bed. But I went to the gym, I did my little like journaling, obviously said some prayers. I was like, I'm going to speak to these lovely two girls. It's like, I need to say some prayers that I don't chat shit. Yeah, so I did all this, and then like I think, well, why am I doing that? I'm doing that so then I actually live an authentic, happy life, and that I can actually like, you know, like even if hard things come up in life, I can alchemize them and be with them and live a happy life. So I actually get further and get to those older moments, I suppose, because yeah, obviously everything like I don't think we like manifest everything. You're not going to like manifest an illness and stuff, but there's so many decisions that lead you to a place like obviously your thing is like all about mindset and stuff, but it's like, are you actually looking after your mind? I think grieving has helped me realize that like anything can happen in life, so you might as well like really just go out and claim what you want.
And as well, like one of the main reasons we asked you, obviously we know that Instagram, like we do post the highlights, but you can just see it in your everything, like your energy, how much you're living in your truth and everything you post and express. Like I just think that like you're an amazing woman, and I think how you've handled everything and how you're helping people, like I do think it shows for sure.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And right back at you girls, honestly. I love watching your journeys. I'm like, what are they up to now? They're like here, there, and everywhere. You're like the two little travel girlies. I absolutely love it. Like, it's actually amazing when you think back to it as well, like where you two would have started in your bedroom in lockdown, me and Grace in our bedroom under some bloody like big sheet thing, trying to like get better audio and all that. Like where we are now, like you two were like living in, I was gonna say America then, living in Australia, like just surviving, having a great time doing yoga and stuff. I'm like, I love to see it. It's amazing.
It is so much. And even like, I remember us sitting in our room at one point and like, we were like, what should we do? Should we do like, we aren't that creative, would you say? No. Or we're like, right, what should we start? What should we start? And it's like, you've got to find what works for you for sure, haven't you?
Yeah.
And like, it's took a lot of trial and error, I think. Like, even coming out here, like, I didn't intend to actually do yoga. Like, it was more for the visa initially. And then I'm like, wow, like even just learning about like energy and everything that I was learning in yoga, I was like all the practices and everything. It's everything that we learn in the books nowadays, like about mindset and delving deep and dissolving the ego and breath work. And I'd just be in awe every time I'd be like going to study. And I was like, oh my God, it's actually, because I remember saying to you, I actually remember being in Ibiza going through a breakup, and like it was just my whole life at that time. I was so consumed by it, wasn't I? Just so lost because I hadn't really got like, you'd moved to London, like our friendship group's quite independent as well. We don't really always see each other, so I really did feel like I was on my own. I went to Ibiza and I just remember looking out at that. It's like a really spiritual rock there.
I think it's like as I've not actually been with Esvedra or something.
Esvedra, that's it. I was looking out and I said to my friends, like, where am I going to be? Like, I really just, like, I need change. I feel so lost. And then a month later, I made like a vision board and it had yoga on it and it had Oz and it had all this stuff, debt free, because I was in like quite a bit of debt at the time. And then everything just came true. And then I look back and it's so funny, like that time when truly I was just so floored with like the loss of somebody that I thought I knew and everything. And I look back and I'm like, oh my God, that really did pave the way for me to be where I am now. And I wouldn't change any of it. Like, I really wouldn't change any of it.
It's so mad, isn't it? I was thinking when you were saying before, like, past, present, and future is within your, like, that is future you guiding you, even though you didn't know how. Like, you putting a yoga person on a vision board with no explanation, or like when you were saying, Abby, like you just say these things but you're not really sure why or where it's coming from. And like I feel like I always say things about like where I want to be or like how I want to work, whatever, in the future, and like I know it so intuitively that is where I'm going to go, even if I don't know the how right now. And like that, it's also another thing I was thinking then is like we catch up like every very so often. It's like very minimal, or like we've always been aware of like, or I've always been aware of like what you're up to and watching your life like play out through a screen. for me makes it seem so simple. I'm just like, yeah, like she had a podcast and they did an agency, and now she's doing more like spiritual stuff, and like it makes something that's actually so complex and has so much emotion and like so many different levels and ways to it seem like such a like easy timeline. And it's nice to remember that like that's the same for us. Like our timeline is carrying on, like your timeline is carrying on. Like that time where you felt so stuck and was in that place and was doing your like vision board, somebody else from the outside perspective could always be like, obviously you're going to end up back in Australia, or like you will make out this relationship that isn't serving you, or you will like find your feet again.
Not plugging
yeah. Not plugging, but you will carry on. And like if somebody, like I can think of people that I know now going through like harder times, and I can see so clearly for them like they will get through it and it will get better. But like when you're in the midst of it, you just can't see like the, what is it, the fog from the
forest.
I always struggle with that one as well. It's like the wood through the trees or something.
The forest through the trees.
The forest through the trees.
But I think as well, like with everything that you've experienced in your story, it's like a deep knowing. I think that sometimes we can sit so much in like suffering because we're not learning like maybe the lessons that need to get us ahead. So like we can sit in like, oh, this isn't serving me, but not be like, okay, what is it trying to teach me? Like maybe I do need to leave this job, or it just doesn't feel right. But sometimes we can sit so much in the identity that we've created, like you were saying in the beginning, like we've built something up so much that we're so scared we can't see the higher perspective of like sometimes we said this in the last week's episode, sometimes you can ask for a flower, but instead like God wants to give you a bouquet, and it's like, no, like think more abundantly, like, and there's so many possibilities that you can go down. And sometimes we've just got such tunnel vision because of our limiting beliefs, because of like our childhood or our teenagers. We don't believe that we're capable of so much more, and so our vision's so blurred, when actually it's like other people can probably see the light in you more than you can see it in yourself sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why it's good to have those people around you that can really like see potential in you. And as well, I see it as like a tipping scale in a way, like you just said, because we can like really easily stay in things that like aren't meant for us, but we're always getting something from that, like whether it's healthy or not. Like we're always like, oh well, I'm staying in this because it's safe, or because like, yeah, it's familiar, or like I do get benefits from it, or like there's benefits to me not earning loads of money because then I'm not gonna like lose friends or something like that. Like there's always benefits, but I feel like there's like that tipping scale where like, oh, actually I want to heal, I want to live a better life, and you're like, actually I need to like tip the scale over and go for something else. So I think obviously, yeah, like the more you become conscious of like your beliefs and what like runs your life and what you value in life, like then maybe you can understand why you're staying in things that you're not necessarily meant to be in, and the benefits that you can get from actually like pushing and leaving those things.
And it's like it's a human like rationalizing it all, and then it's a spiritual just knowing with no explanation. Like I said recently, I was like, I go through these periods and I feel really uncomfortable, and then like something changes. I don't know why, but I'm thankful for it, because like I'm thankful for the times I feel so uncomfortable, because it means that like something better or new is about to come, or like something is about to shift.
And I think about like my teenage years where like I had the worst mindset about my body ever. Like I was so awful to myself. Like I'd have my Twitter somewhere in the fucking ethos, but like I literally would write tweets about myself every day. Like, I'm so fat, I hate my nose, I was literally like 14, and there was so much ingrained, like I just didn't feel good enough. And it's just like, I actually really would not change that at all, even though I went through so many years of like just hating myself. I think that honestly gave me so much compassion for anybody going through that now. And I don't think I'd have the depth that I do. And so it's just one of them, isn't it? Like you can go through really hard times, and then I think in hindsight, you look back and it was like, spiritually, it was like amazing lessons came from that period of pain.
100%.
Thank you so much for coming on. I feel like that was we had like a whole list of like 20 questions. We didn't look at them once, but I actually think that we covered everything we wanted to talk about just so
Yeah.
like organically anyway. So thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, where you're at, your thoughts, and everything that you've learned along the way. I know it's so powerful, and you being vulnerable is going to help so many people, which is exactly what your work is teaching you to do. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh, you're so welcome, honestly. Thanks so much. It's like a beautiful start to the week.